Hello students, a very warm welcome to you. Recently you have been just seeing how India-Pakistan has engaged itself into a war. But not from the current affairs perspective. Let's try to analyze this issue from the sociological point of view. What would be the functional view that we are going to have? What are the conflict view that we are going to have? In my today's lecture, I will be dividing this into some different components. First of all, we will try to develop a very simple definition of what exactly a war is. Then we'll also try to define something called as a macro perspective and a micro perspective. Then I will also try to highlight some functional, conflict, symbolic views that can be analyzed in a situation of war. We will also try to understand some important causes that we see. And then I will be looking at social impact, and then I will also be talking about from some thinker's view. Let's just directly dive in. What is a war? A war is not just a simple form of a violence between two groups. No, it is an organized, armed kind of a conflict usually seen among states. If you look at the definition, war is generally understood as a deliberate and an organized armed conflict between distinct groups. Most commonly, they are among the nations and states. Unlike spontaneous or random acts of violence, war is characterized with certain points. What are those points? This involves structural discipline. There will be some involvement of military that will be present. Clear political, economic, ideological goals are the ones which are produced. The mobilization is for certain reasons. In this lecture, I will try to define something how wars can be analyzed from the micro view, what is happening at an individual, at a soldier level, how the phenomena are present at a civilian form. If I make it little bit more bigger, how the concept of war can be analyzed at a macro perspective. So at the macro level, what is happening among the nations, what is happening among the states, etc. Once we go beyond this, uh, the sociological view says that war is having some important functions to play as well. Like for example, during the situation of warfare, the functional view is telling there might be a situation of unity that can be produced. And once this unity is present, this unity can also produce into a psychological phenomena as a form of a we feeling. That is, the nationalism is being produced. This is mostly a form called to be as an adverse nationalism. Moreover, if the war is in their favor, it can also produce them towards resource allocation, better resource distribution, etc. But looking at the other side of the coin, we can also tell that the phenomena of war can even be dysfunctional as well. It can also lead to production of some conflict. Due to this situation of war, it can establish a large form of inequality within the society. These inequalities, if they further grow, it will divide the society into class of haves and have-nots. That somebody is present at an advantageous end, somebody is present at a disadvantageous. So class of haves and have-nots. It also tends to create a competitive form of environment. It also tends to create a competitive form of environment. These phenomena are basically responsible for disintegration of the society. These phenomena are responsible for unity, solidarity, integration of society as well. On the other hand, if we take a look at the symbolic view is telling that you can analyze this phenomena on the basis of large level of bloodsheds that will be created. There will be phenomena of death, because in symbolicism we try to understand the different signs and symbols around it. There will be presence of bloodshed. There will be large number of deaths that will be created. Somebody who will be presented as a hero, there will be an aspect of heroism that will be produced. On the other, there are some people who will be seen to be as victims. There will be rise of dictators who will be seen as cult leaders, or they can also be called to be as a charismatic authority. So sociological view is trying to analyze the phenomena from the functional manner, from the conflict perspective, and then you are having a symbolic Now let's try to understand why do they happen? What are the reasons behind their presence? One main important reason why they tend to happen, it is because of the political factors. Like take the issue that is happening between US and China. The US and China, they both are coming under a conflict at a political level. So the political system is largely creating these conflicts. On the other hand, these conflict can also be produced on the basis of an ideological factors as well. It can also be produced due to uh, they can also be produced they can also be produced due to ideological factors as well. If we further go ahead, there could also be a reason such as a territorial dispute can also leads to production of these conflicts. Like the issue of Kashmir is basically a territorial dispute where the another country says that there is an India occupied Kashmir. India says that there is a Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So this IOK, POK, these issues is basically a territorial reason. One of the most important main reason for producing this conflict is also because of economic systems as well. If we take the example of West Asian wars, Syrian wars, Iraq wars, it is basically an economic conflict that is produced, and largely not to forget the wars which are being produced on the basis of security. For example, Russia says that Ukraine is breaching its treaty. It is entering into the NATO agreement. It's a security concern. So security could also be a factor. So if we take a look, the US and China war is a political war. The Cold War, which was there during the times of US versus USSR, was an ideological war. Kashmir is a form of a territorial war. Economic wars in West Asia, security, etc. Let's try to go ahead and find some social impact reasons. So, looking at what could be some of the social factors responsible to create an impact is whenever there is a war that is being created, it leads towards loss of lives. When these loss of lives are going to happen, it also tends to establish a fragmentation of family systems. The families are going to get dispersed. They are going to get more and more fragmented. Large number of people will be migrating from one place to another places. So there is going to be an exodus. There will be presence of mass migration that will take place. And due to this mass migration, this will also establish some large refugee camps as well. That is also a problem. If we further go ahead, because of these displacement, there will be an issue such as there will be a rise of cultural erosions that will take place. So when the cultural erosion is happening, the society they tend to lose their cultures. And if the war is creating at the foreign end, it also creates some impact in the internal within the society. There could be rise of bipolarization. And if the bipolarization, it tends to rise more and more, over and over, again and again, this can even lead towards establishment of some civil wars as well. So bipolarization, rise of civil wars. So there could be more further amount of internal conflict that can be created. And one good impact that we get to see is gender opportunities will be created during these war conditions. For example, that women will be entering into the workforce. They will join the army. So there will be a dilution for the sexual division of labor. A very good example is Elizabeth II, the Queen of England. She was one of the soldiers who joined to save her country. So there are many pictures also. So we get to see there will be gender opportunity. There will also lead towards dilution of patriarchy as well. Dilution. There will be establishment of dilution of patriarchy. So here dilution of patriarchy will take place. So what are some of the social impacts? There would be loss of lives, fragmentation of family, mass migrations will take place, cultural erosion, bipolarization, civil wars that can get established. It can even lead towards rise of genocides. That is also a problem. Gender opportunities will get open, dilution will take place. Now let's try to see what do some thinkers have to say about this. If we take a look at the Weber's view, he was largely associated with the field of political sociology. Weber was constantly trying to highlight that war will always create some kind of monopolization, or it will establish some legitimization. And how this legitimization is there? It is in a form of a force. So Weber was trying to speak about different forms of authority. War is basically used as a tool to establish the legitimization, and that too a forceful legitimization. But when we look at Durkheim, he is a very optimistic person. He is going to say that wars are actually a good thing. It is trying to bring the people together. Nationalism is being brought. Unity is achieved. So it should be considered as a normal social part. C.W. Mills was talking about the concept known as military industrial complex. This is a famous word that has been used by C.W. Mill, military industrial complex. And this term has been popularized by Eisenhower, because C.W. Mills, in his theory of power elite, he is talking about three types of powers are distributed among, and one among them is the army. So army is going to establish war that will help to retain the power. Randall Colin, who has been inspired by Weberian view, he was trying to tell that the concept, he actually writes a book. That book is called to be as Micro Theory of Violence. He writes a book called as Micro Theory of Violence, in which he is trying to explain that what is the concept of war all about. It is trying to create an impact at an individual level. Then there is a revolutionary sociologist, Charles Tilly, who was trying to explain how the revolutions will create an impact on the society. And he says the wars have successfully created the states. Today, all the states which are created, it is because of the wars. And what do the states do? When the states will get established, they are the ones who later go and furthermore establish. So wars made the states made the wars. These are some thinkers' view that we are trying to discuss. What did we see in our today's lecture? We were trying to understand the sociological concept of wars, not from the current affairs manner, but in the field of optional sociology. We try to look at a simple definition, and then a micro and a macro view was trying to be get analyzed. We also try to understand what is the functional conflict and symbolic views which are being created, some important reasons which leads to its establishment, some important social impacts, and not to forget the most important part, according to me, is the thinker's view. What are the contribution done by these social scientists? That's it in my today's lecture. I will take some other current affairs topic and we will try to discuss in a more detailed sociological manner. Till then, have a good day.